The year is 1984. The BMW E30 3 Series is freshly announced. There's no M3s roaming the streets yet, and you want something a little more special with a little more power. Well, I present to you the B6 2.8 by Alpina. So in 1984, there was the 323i, the new E30, and Alpina at the time was buying completed 323i's and converting them into their new B6 2.8, which is what we have here. And what that is a 210 horsepower M30 B28 powered E30 coupe, and it is sweet. This very Alpina happens to be serial number 3, meaning that this is the third B6 2.8 to ever roll off of the Alpina factory line in Buchloe. Being number 3 is increasingly special in the year 2024 because what this is one of the very few known early Alpina E30s that is still, accounted for on the internet. Number 1, to my knowledge, there's no information on it. It's not in the archive. Number 2 is somewhere in Europe, but been updated, years ago. And this is number 3. And that is really cool because this is like one of the earliest B6 2.8s. So it's like, whoa. But this car is really sweet. It's finished in Delphin gray with Alpina cloth interior. I'm gonna show you guys around the whole car and talk about it. And then later on, we're gonna take it for a little drive and see what an Alpina B6 is like with the M30. Because as you guys know, I had the B3 2.7, but now we have the B6 2.8. So a little bigger engine, a little more power, and yeah. So this is an early model E30, meaning it has the chrome Euro bumpers as opposed to the world bumpers that my 88 B3 came with. And then the earlier Alpina cars also had this more aggressive pointed front air dam, which I think is actually the coolest thing ever. It kind of reminds me of like an old steam train, like the Polar Express, because it just comes to a point right in the front and it's just like, whoa. So this car has a pretty sweet presence with the chrome bumpers and the big old pointy air dam. Otherwise, front of the car, standard E30. So like all Alpina E30s, it got the special treatment with the stripes that run along the side of the car. These are gold stripes on the gray, which is actually a really nice looking car, or color combo. Then you have the Alpina wheels, of course, the 8 and the 7-inch Alpina wheels, which tie it all in together. Then in the rear here, we got the boot spoiler, Alpina badge here, B6 2.8 here, and again, chrome rear Euro bumpers, which look really rad on this car. I really do love the chrome Euro bumpers. So the brief history with this car, it was made in Buchloe, lived in Germany for about 2 years, and then it was actually imported to Japan in like late 1986, where it lived up until about 2012 when it was imported here to the United States. I got my hands on it a couple months ago, and I know I haven't shown it, but it's been wintertime here, so I haven't gotten really the chance. But lived in Japan most of its life, which is notorious for being kind of rough on cars. And this car isn't quite like my B3. It wasn't, it's not all original paint, all original, it's been repainted. Paint's really nice on it, so I mean, it's like great shape. But overall, it's a really clean car, crack-free dash. It's a really nice car. I would say it's a great driver's car because my B3 2.7 was a museum piece that was, scared to drive. This is something that you don't feel so bad going out and driving. It's got 85,000 kilometers on it, so it's still a baby, really. But just the climate of Japan it's pretty rough on cars from what I've heard. So, the sun there beats down on them and they need to be painted and all that stuff. So, the wheels have their flaws, but overall, it's a really, really nice car. And this thing will be really fun for the channel. Just like the B3, you get the special Alpina cloth interior. The door cards are cloth with the blue and green stripe running down the side, the same stripe that runs along the seats. Otherwise, E30, minimalistic door cards, door handle, electric mirrors, which is pretty crazy for 1984. Coming into the interior, which is always a really special and cool part about Alpinas, you got the Alpina cloth seats made by Recaro. You got the Alpina steering wheel made by Momo. Nice leather wheel, 4 spokes, really awesome looking wheel. You got your gauge cluster here with the Alpina at the bottom. Of course, you have your electronic or digital readout for oil temp, diff temp, oil pressure and then manifold pressure right there. You got your Alpina badge here in the middle, and you can see at the bottom, BMW/Alpina B6 2.8/1 003 or 0003. So serial number 3, which is really awesome. Check control up here. It's in German, of course. German delivered car. Crack-free dash. You have your absolutely minimalistic little check control here. You have nothing but an H and a min, which I think is just your clock. I don't think it does anything else on this early car. We do have AC, which is pretty impressive. It is a dogleg 5-speed transmission. So because it's equipped with an M30, M30s back in the 80s did come with the dogleg G265 in Europe. It's a really, really rad transmission. So first is towards you and down. Second is where third would normally be, and then third is where fourth would be. And that's basically a racing oriented transmission, so it's easier to go second to third, which is where you spend most of your time. Comes with a really tall little shifter, which is actually really cool. E-brake here, your shift patterns right here, so you don't forget. We got ashtray, lighter. You got the Alpina dead pedal on the floor there, the black with the chrome, iconic Alpina dead pedal. This thing, for some reason, has a metal clutch pedal cover. I guess it makes it bigger so you can really be mashing the clutch on it. Here in the glove box, we have not that much. We have an owner's handbook, and then we have anti-theft radio and your BMW service thingy. We do have, actually, funny enough, an Alpina badge, but these never came on actual Alpinas, so it kind of serves no purpose. But otherwise, I mean, for the interior, really nice. The seats have a little bit of wear on them, but otherwise not too bad. The carpet's been replaced, which is interesting. I guess the carpet probably faded because the BMW black carpet's kind of like, it's kind of like grayish from factory, so I guess you get some sun on it and it really gets gray, which is, you know, makes sense. So it's got fresh black carpet, brand new floor mats I just bought for it. So I'm already tinkering with it a little bit, but the heart of all the mechanical stuff we're gonna get to. As I said, we got the cloth rear seat, and then this thing actually has a rear sunshade, which for an E30 I think is pretty rare. That's pretty cool. But back seats on these, pretty comfortable. The Alpina little bench seat. You can tell this one's like never been sat in, but pretty nice. You got your handles here. It's E30 coupe interior, you know. It's pretty sweet. So now to the part that everyone cares about, and that is the M30 in an E30, which BMW never did, if you guys weren't aware. And every time I say that, everyone feels the need to say, but the 333i in South Africa. Well, if you read up on that car, it was said that it was actually Alpina that BMW reached out to kind of help create that car, which again would mean Alpina were the only people to do M30s and E30s. So I stand and I hold my statement there. But anyway, this is a 2.8 liter M30, the same one that came in the 528i E12, which is funny because I love that car, which those make stock like 184 horsepower. This thing is bumped up, actually probably less. This is bumped up to 210 horsepower. Basically, Alpina took it. They put in lighter Mahle pistons. They revised the combustion chamber, different camshafts, crankshafts. They used a new electronic ignition system, tuning, obviously a custom Alpina exhaust. That's why it sounds so cool. They revised the air intake. If you guys aren't familiar, it's not ringing a bell. The M30s usually have the intake that runs over the engine and the airbox is over here. Well, since this is fitted into an E30, it basically wanted to keep the M20 style airbox. So you have a M30 manifold here with a flipped intake, so nothing here, and the throttle body's on this side, and then it comes into a standard elbow into your airbox right here, keeping the form of basically how E30s look. To fit this big boy in here, they went with a custom small little radiator. It's stamped Alpina. There's no clutch fan. You cannot fit a clutch fan with this engine in here. It is way too tight. So it's really interesting kind of looking around and seeing all the interesting kind of design cues and stuff they use to get the M30 into the E30. But it is a badass engine and it sounds good and the power is amazing. We'll figure that out when we drive it in a little bit. But I'm just going to tour you guys through the engine bay a little bit and kind of talk. So in true Alpina fashion, your valve cover, your manifold are all black, which looks really sweet. This car has a strut brace, which is not an Alpina thing, but previous owner put a strut brace on there. And then here's the little radiator I was talking about. So you can see the Alpina stamp, and it's shoved into the core support with no room for a clutch fan, which is pretty insane. Here is the Alpina badge right there that you gotta look for in the engine bays with your WAP VIN, WAP B6 ending in your serial number 003. And then the other VIN is right here, but mine's under the strut brace. Since Alpina would buy completed E30s and then they would modify them themselves, they all actually do have a WBA BMW VIN. And you can see right here, hopefully, it's perfectly X'd out. That's what mainly all Alpinas, even the B3 has. Its original BMW VIN, because every time the shell is made, it's stamped. And then Alpina crosses it out because its new VIN is the WAP VIN right here, stating that it basically went through Alpina. M20 expansion tank location is the same, but you have a special hose that runs over the valve cover down under the intake, and then it feeds into, I believe, the hose that goes into the back of the thermostat housing there. Here's a better look at the flipped intake. Super cool piece, really rare. People want these if they're doing turbo on M30 because it's easier to route your intercooler piping. Then you have the airbox right there. Alpina branded intake boot, which is insane, super cool. And then since this car, there's the Delphin metallic stamp. Since this car was in Japan, you can see there we got some Japan writing on it. This is like a BMW Japan dealership. You can see the BMW right there. That's like an oil change interval sticker, which is just really cool to see Japanese, stuff on a car. There's another Japanese thingy right there. I'm not sure what that is, but it does have a kilometer reading on it, so some sort of maintenance sticker. Then that is an Alpina badge, which I don't even know if my B3 had it. Maybe it did. It's your tire sizing little sticker, and it says Alpina on it. So I also forgot to mention, this is number 3 of 259. They only ever made 259 units of these. So, after 30 plus years, it's pretty crazy to think. Actually, no. The year's 2024. This is an 84. So this car is 40 years old this year. That is crazy. But I mean, after 40 years of being on the road, it's just crazy to think about how many of these cars are probably gone, crashed, parted out, whatever. So to have just number 3 intact, running, driving is just really, really special. But without further ado, let's hop in this thing and take it for a quick little spin, because I know we all want to see the Alpina driving, right? Who doesn't? So let's take this thing for a drive, shall we? This is just our preliminary drive. We're not going to go crazy. Our full updated driving video will come. But first, I want to do maintenance on this thing and kind of overhaul everything that needs to be overhauled. So this is just going to be our quick little first drive impression. I think part of the fun with this car is that we can make content with it, and that is my intentions. We're going to dive into this thing and do similar to my build series. We're going to do a little mini resto on it. Not like anything crazy, but we're going to go through all the systems, fuel, and the injectors, air intake, all that stuff, reseal stuff. We're going to do a lot of maintenance. We're going to pull the diff out. I know it needs a diff mount already. Exhaust stuff. Like we're going to kind of do it all. I know like the sending unit isn't working, so there's a lot of stuff for us to do, and it'll be fun to kind of go through and do all these things with you guys, because we've worked on BMWs before, but we haven't worked on Alpinas before. And the B3 2.7 was a gift from the gods in terms of an all original, mint condition, well-maintained Alpina. You really don't find things like that. This was a driven car, enjoyed, still low kilometers. I mean, 85,000 kilometers, but just the environment it was in, it wasn't kept in a climate-controlled warehouse like the B3. So it was in the hands of a collector who had a lot of these cars, and you could just tell he let it sit, and now we're gonna come in and we're gonna write all that. So that'll be really fun. So stay tuned for those episodes. But yeah, back to the car. So initial impressions, it feels like an E30 coupe. I haven't gotten a beat on it yet, but the dogleg 5-speed is absolutely insane. It's so interesting to get used to a dogleg. First is towards you, and then second is where third would normally be, and third is where fourth would be. See, it's kind of confusing. You got to be mindful when you're driving because it's pretty easy to forget and try to jam it into first. I know when I was in Spain driving the M3, I was like, hey, it won't go into first, and he said, no, it's a dog leg, and I'm like, oh. So now that car's not here yet, but I'll have a couple dog leg cars in the collection, which is interesting. But it shifts really nice, really notchy. It's a G265/5 because it's fitted with an M30, and those are just really good transmissions. They're invincible. They feel great. It's like the best Getrag ever made, the holy grail transmission, if you will. So that is right off the bat. That's awesome. We got our digital Alpina gauge here, reading us all of our important stuff. We're up to temps, so let's give it a little rip. Oh my God. Oh, I love Alpinas because they rip, they sound awesome, and the overall feeling is just so good. Oh my God. This thing, it's probably hard to hear the exhaust. It's actually pretty quiet in the cabin, but you can tell it needs probably a cap and a rotor. It was a little hiccupy on the red line. It was kind of had a couple points where it kind of fell out and then came back, but that's no big deal. That's easy maintenance. But I mean, it's just, you feel the torque right away. I mean, that's what M30s are. They're torque machines. So as I said earlier in the video, 210 horsepower. I gotta look up the torque number really quick, but it's right around the same power as the B3. The B3 2.7 was I think 207 horsepower because it was the catted version. So, I mean, we're right around the same power number, but in terms of like the direct comparison, they feel pretty close. Yeah, like this is a quick car for sure. It feels awesome. The better comparison will really be once I go through all this. You could just tell there's some points that it need attention, but I know that's what like everyone's wondering is like, hey, how does it compare to the B3 2.7, right? Like this is a 2.8 liter M30 versus a 2.7 liter M20. They're pretty damn close. 3 horsepower differences. The weight of the engine is, I mean, an M30 is a little heavier than an M20, maybe around 100 pounds. So everyone's like, oh, you got all that weight in the front though. I mean, it's a pretty marginal amount of weight. It's not like 800 pounds or anything like that. So I can't feel it off the initial driving. I need to get into some corners and stuff. So we'll really save that comparison for the next driving video. For the preliminary driving video, we're just kind of testing it out, and dude, I love it. I love this thing. It does have AC, but the belt's not on it and the lines are disconnected, so I'm gonna redo the AC system. I got, luckily, my old M30's compressor. Comparing the old B3 to this is fun because it's just like, oh, they're so close, but good thing I didn't stall right there because I would have had to jump start the car. The dogleg's actually really enjoyable. Oh, see, it's waking up. You could tell, like just driving it, it's starting to kind of be better. These things hate sitting. Oh my God, it just is so happy. And it's the dogleg. I love dogleg. Basically is a thing built for racing because you can jam second to third rather than like second and then third, which is kind of awkward when you're on a track. So just being able to go 2 to 3 really makes the difference in your performance, right? But this thing, I love this car. This thing is rad. I'm really excited to drive this more and really kind of get into it after it's gone through and all that stuff. So Oh, dude, just like the V3 2.7, this thing sounds so good, and it just feels so right. These Alpinas have very quickly become like my favorite cars just to drive. They are so special, so amazing. It's like, it just blows you away, dude. It's insane, really. They're just absolutely exhilarating to drive. And they're in such a good, like, usable form, you know? It's not like overly modified cars that are just like nightmares to own and work on and stuff. Like, they're just well built. And they sound good and they look good. That's the thing. It's like, you know, like, I'm a modified BMW guy. You guys know this. And I really do appreciate the stock stuff, but at the same time, the stock stuff, it's sometimes kind of hard to enjoy. It's just not as fun and as cool, you know? Whereas these kind of fill out all the boxes, right? Like, they look cool, sound cool, and they're not modified beyond use. Dude, it can't help but put a smile on your face. It is just so good. So good. Oh my God, I love this car. And what's even better is that I don't feel super guilty driving it like I did with the B3, because it's hard to not feel guilty driving a collector grade car. This one, you go through the revs, go through the gears, just like most M30s. When you get that hotter cam, the up top just absolutely comes to life. You know, you got really good torque down low, but then you go up top and you can just feel whatever cam they put in this thing. Once you get like 4,500, 5,000 RPMs to redline, it punches you. But it's just such a good power delivery. It's so, I don't think linear is the word, because it really does kind of ramp in. It's weird. Like, when you have a camshaft like that, it's almost like, you know, kind of boost. You know how you just kind of got to ramp into the boost? It almost is like that, but you still have the really good torque down low. Like, you know, 2,500, 3 grand RPM. It actually has enough oomph to kind of put you in your seat just off the rip. And then the cam takes, oh my God, then the cam comes in. The mid-range on this car is absolutely insane. Even 3 to 4, it's all throughout the rev range. It feels absolutely impressive. Oh my, this is so good. I can't wait to have this thing fully serviced and then get back into it, do another driving video, and really take it by my favorite driving roads, corners, and all that stuff, and really enjoy it, because that's where this thing, I think, will really shine. I mean, it's already shining, but you know, I'm in rush hour traffic, not really getting to kind of ring it out how I would like. And the craziest thing is once I get it working, you get working AC, man. I mean, you could be in here, you know, just relaxing. And that's actually really crazy that this was a German delivered car with AC, because that is extremely rare. Most German delivered cars just came no AC, like the B3 2.7, no AC, which I actually prefer, in the sense of you shed weight, you shed components that, you know, might not work, maintenance and stuff, and you just have a more pure driver's car. But AC when it's hot out isn't the worst thing. So yeah, I can tell that this car is coming back to life, because it is immediately after 6 minutes of driving, it's going through the revs way better. Like, way better. It's just kind of waking up, and you can just feel it, you know? So this thing is impressive. I can't wait to drive it some more with you guys. Thank you guys for watching this initial introduction to my new B6 2.8. This is a really sweet car. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.